Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I am Marina Grossu from Washington, D.C. Happy Independence Day from the United States. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Pope Francis is appealing to all nations and the international community for joint action to end the scourge of hunger. In his letter to the UN Food and Agricultural Organization's 43rd session, which is being held in Rome from July 1st to 7th, 2023, the Pope called for joint and collaborative action. He said that there can be no room for conflict or opposition when the enormous challenges at hand require a holistic and multilateral approach. He lamented that there are still millions of malnourished people in the world, naming natural disasters and armed war as the main causes. The Pope stated that mass displacement, along with other effects of global, political, economic, and military tensions, undermine efforts to ensure that people's living conditions are improved on the basis of their inherent dignity. Around 700,000 children have been brought into Russia from crisis zones in Ukraine. This was announced by the head of the Foreign Committee in the Federal Council, Grigory Karasin. In a telegram message, he said that 700,000 children have found refuge with them after fleeing the bombing and shelling in Ukraine. In February 2022, Russia began a full-scale invasion of its western neighbor, Ukraine. Moscow claims that the purpose of its operation for importing Ukrainian children onto Russian soil is to protect orphans and young children who have been abandoned in the war-torn area. However, the United States and Ukraine both claim that thousands of children have been forcibly removed from their homes. Cardinal Cupich of Chicago has traveled to Kyiv, Irpen, and Bucha in Ukraine to show his empathy with the country's suffering citizens. The cardinal lauded the resiliency of Ukrainians in a statement released by the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. This is despite their continued suffering due to Russia's invasion of their country. Cardinal Cupich met with Archbishop Sviatoslav Shevchuk, the head of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, in the capital Kyiv, and discussed ways to heal the war's wounds. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has made a proposal to celebrate Christmas on December 25th instead of January 7th, as many Orthodox churches do, as per the old Julian calendar. Zelensky's proposal is consistent with the way Ukrainian churches are currently separating themselves from the Russian Orthodox Church. Fewer arrests were reported on the sixth night of protests in France, which were triggered by the gunning down of a teenager by police. The Interior Ministry said the number of persons detained by police was 157, down from 1,300 on Friday. The country is now relatively calm after French President Emmanuel Macron authorized the deployment of 45,000 police officers. Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin questioned parents for allowing their kids to wreak havoc across the nation, noting that the average age of those detained was 17 years old. He said that some were as young as 12. He said it's not up to the national police or the gendarmerie or the mayor or the state to solve the problem of a 12-year-old setting fire to a school. It's a question of parental authority, he added. Riots broke out after a teenage boy of North African origin was gunned down by a cop after he refused to stop for questioning. House Republicans in the United States are planning to use the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, to overturn the Biden administration's transgender and abortion policies. Last week, Republican lawmakers submitted a large number of amendments that they hope will be incorporated into the NDAA for 2024. The bill has received more than 1,300 modifications, which could be debated as soon as next week when House Republicans reconvene. The plan already contains a number of anti-woke clauses, such as one from Republican Representative Jim Banks of Indiana that forbids the Pentagon from recruiting senior so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion employees. The Republicans passed many amendments banning race and gender quotas in military recruiting and promotions, reinstating unvaccinated service members fired by the Biden administration, and shutting down the Navy's Drag Queen Digital Ambassador program. They also passed provisions to defund critical race theory courses at West Point and end drag shows at military bases. The northeast Indian state of Manipur was asked to provide the Supreme Court with an updated status report on the violent intercommunal riots that broke out in the state. The state was ordered by the court to revise its position on rehabilitation camps, the return of weapons, and law and order. The subject will be discussed again on Monday. The state of Manipur is simmering with ethnic clashes between the Hindu-dominated Meitei community and the mostly Christian Kupich, who are tribals. Scores of churches of various denominations have been torched in the violence, in addition to the houses and other establishments being burned. In the United States of America, the Federal Bureau of Investigation and other law enforcement agencies are offering a reward of $28,000 to anyone who has information about the culprits involved in the mass shooting at a party in Baltimore. It was on Sunday that 20-year-old Kilis Fagbemi and 18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez were shot and killed. While Gonzalez died on the spot, Fagbemi succumbed to gun wounds while being taken to the hospital. As many as 28 others were injured in the shooting. Metro Crime Stoppers is offering a reward of $8,000. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive is providing $10,000, just like the FBI. The Baltimore shooting is the latest in the spree of fatal shootings rocking the United States since the beginning of the COVID pandemic. So far, 340 mass shootings have taken place across the nation. The Holy Father has announced his prayer intention for the month of July, and it is centered on the Eucharist. Pope Francis is urging believers to place the Eucharistic celebration at the center of their lives. He made this appeal in a video through the Pope's worldwide prayer network. In the video, he said, "If you are the same at the end of Mass as you were at the beginning, something is wrong." The pontiff is also inviting believers to see the celebration of Holy Mass not as something obligatory, but rather as an encounter with Jesus, who has risen. The Pope says in the video that the Eucharist is the presence of Jesus, who is profoundly transforming. He also goes on to explain the logic of the Eucharist, which provides everyone with the courage to encounter others and to open themselves to others. An American survey has found that most citizens agree with the U.S. Supreme Court's verdicts regarding affirmative action, free speech, and student loan handouts. The survey was conducted by ABC News and Ipsos, and it revealed that 52% of Americans agree with the court's decision to do away with race-based school admission, while 32% disagreed. Last Thursday, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that affirmative action using race as a benchmark for college admissions violates the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. The poll also revealed that 45% of Americans agreed with the court's decision to shoot down President Joe Biden's student loan handout. The Supreme Court has also overturned the president's student loan handout, citing the fact that it was against the Constitution. The poll also revealed that 43% of Americans agree that businesses should not be forced to provide services that go against their religious faith. Even as several states across America are passing laws banning medical interventions for youth experiencing gender dysphoria, U.S. District Court judges in Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee have taken steps to prevent such laws from going into effect. They have ruled that they infringe on the constitutional mandate to provide equal protection under the 14th Amendment. Federal judges are yet to rule on 2 lawsuits challenging such laws in the states of Montana and Georgia. Almost 20 states across the country have passed legislation prohibiting the use of puberty blockers and hormone therapy, and a good number of them were passed this year. The Cabinet of the United Arab Emirates has amended the law to combat human trafficking. The victims will receive assistance and a safe return to their home nations. Incitement to commit a crime has been made a crime, and the penalties for offenders have been increased. The official website of the state in the Arabian Peninsula states that the nation condemns outlaws, and penalizes human trafficking. The plan includes preventing human trafficking, catching and punishing traffickers, safeguarding survivors, and fostering international cooperation. Federal laws assist victims and eyewitnesses and increase public awareness of the crime. It mandates a minimum jail sentence of 5 years and a fine of 100,000 dirham. On Monday, Hong Kong police accused 8 activists based abroad of violating the national security law. They have been charged with colluding with foreign elements and inciting secessionist tendencies. Those accused include activists Nathan Law, Anna Kwok, and Finn Lau, apart from former lawmakers Dennis Kwok and Ted Hui. The others are lawyer and legal scholar Kevin Yam, unionist Meng Situat, and online commentator Yuan Gongyi. Police have issued wanted notices and they are offering a reward of 127,656 each for information on the 8 accused. They have also been accused of asking Western countries to impose sanctions on Beijing officials. The 8 activists are based in the USA, Britain, and Australia. Police have charged them under the national security law imposed by Communist Beijing on the former British colony. The Iranian regime has hanged at least 354 people in the first 6 months of this year, according to the report of a human rights group. Norway-based Iran Human Rights announced that the government was undertaking an execution spree and added that the pace of awarding capital punishment was much higher than last year. The group said that in 2022, there were 261 executions. The human rights organization said that the Iranian government was trying to intimidate people by going on an execution spree. The group also expressed concerns over non-Persian ethnic groups being disproportionately affected by the state executions. It is also alleging that 20% of all those who were put to death belong to the Sunni Baluch minority in the mostly Shia Islamic Republic. During the weekend, 2 iconic symbols of the upcoming World Youth Day arrived at the Lisbon Patriarchate in Portugal. They comprise the wooden cross and the icon of Our Lady Salus Populi Romani. It arrived at the Patriarchate of the Patriarch of Lisbon, the Most Reverend Manuel Clemente, on Saturday. Until July 23rd, the cross and the icon will tour the 18 vicarages of the Patriarchate, including 22 municipalities. Organizers of the World Youth Day said the twin symbols usually make a pilgrimage to all dioceses of the host country before the event in order to be heralds of the gospel and accompany young people. At the Patriarchate, Cardinal Clemente welcomed the cross and icon, and he offered Mass in the monastery of Alcobaça. After Holy Mass, he joined young believers in carrying the cross through the streets in procession. And those are your latest headlines. Join us again tomorrow for more. You can also visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.